Namaste dosto. Guns are mainly used here in India for celebrating a cricket win, Diwali, or at a wedding. Actually, India has some of the strictest gun laws in the world, just like the country that I'm from, New Zealand. We both have really, really strict gun laws. So let's hear a bit about those gun laws here in India, compare them a little bit to New Zealand, and I'll show you exactly what guns are available here in India. It's quite different from New Zealand and it's quite different from America. While India has some of the strictest gun laws, which we'll talk about soon, there's one thing I really, really appreciate about Indian law, and that's the fact that you can carry a weapon for self-defense here. Unlike where I'm from in New Zealand, and you guys know why it's so important for me to carry something to protect myself with. Because I have so many enemies here. If you're someone who makes enemies like I do, you need some kind of protection in India, because people will retaliate, and I do meet people from my videos who were not happy with me. But in New Zealand, you're not allowed to carry any weapon for self-defense. You can only use your fists, okay? That sucks. That is really bad. What can a woman do at night? She can't carry anything. You can't carry pepper spray in New Zealand, no nunchucks, no tasers, no stun guns, no knuckle dusters, no nothing. You're not allowed to. And in fact, if you do use a weapon on an intruder in self-defense, the police will take you to court and will prosecute you. And I've seen it happen so many times. One time I remember it was an Indian shopkeeper. 5 youths had invaded his store. He pulled out a cricket bat, I think, no, hockey stick, and he bet them away. And the police took him to court for using a weapon of self-defense. Absolutely shocking. That guy had been stabbed in the leg, and the police are still taking him to court. He got let off, and to be honest, a lot of the cases do get let off in New Zealand when you have used a weapon in self-defense, because it just makes sense. I think they just prosecute people just to tell people, don't do this. This is not what you should do, but it is what you should do. Here in India, that is all allowed. And I carry pepper spray for my personal defense here in India. And there's a whole video on that. I've made reviews of all the pepper sprays that are available here in India, my top picks. So that's one huge difference, and one thing I really appreciate about the self-defense law and the gun laws here in India. In India, there's about 2.6 million licensed firearm owners. And about 86% of crime happens with unlicensed firearms. Most crime happens with unlicensed firearms in New Zealand as well. It's not good firearms owners who are committing these crimes. So that just means that the black market for guns in India is flourishing, and we'll talk more about that soon. Now, there's about 40 million weapons here in India, and of those guns, about 5.5 million of them are registered only. So most guns here aren't registered. And I think a lot of us who have spent time in Haryana and UP, we will know about gun culture and how kind of popular guns are in Haryana and UP, especially these homemade kata pistols that I'll talk to you about soon and actually show you soon. And while guns are allowed for self-defense here in India, that doesn't mean you can just pull one out and shoot someone when you're threatened. There are a bunch of rules around it. So what if an auntie in Haryana is chasing you with her dupatta made into a whip? She's trying to whack you. Can you turn around and shoot her with your shotgun? No, obviously not. You have to use reasonable force. You have to use reasonable force against her. Pulling out a shotgun on an auntie, trying to hit you with a stick or her dupatta, that's not reasonable. That is totally unreasonable. You're not going to die from getting whipped by her, all right? So you can only use reasonable force against someone to defend yourself. No shotguns, okay? You damn flies. So you can't just go around shooting anybody, okay? You have to use your brain and defend yourself wisely and within reason. So obviously guns are available here, and you can register yourself to be a gun owner here. But what guns are available here? Now this is interesting, this is different. In New Zealand, you can kind of have any rifle you want, and you can have kind of any pistol you want as well. But no semi-automatic rifles. They got banned recently. But pistols you can take. Here in India, there is a government department called the Ordnance Factory Board, and they produce the 13 guns which you can buy here in India. There's only 13. And for example, the Delhi police use Glocks and MP5s. That was the last order that I saw. So they're not using these civilian arms, they are using amazing foreign guns. So let's see what a civilian can buy here in India. You used to be able to get imported guns. You used to be able to get Glocks and Smith & Wessons, all that kind of good stuff, before 1986. In 1986, the government of India banned the importing of foreign firearms. So while these 13 guns are available new, there is a large second-hand trade in guns imported before 1986. But they're going to be super expensive and they're going to be second-hand, not to mention old as well. So let's see what this Ordnance Factory Board is producing. You have to book from a gun store or through their website, and they have 6 revolvers, 2 pistols, 3 rifles, and 2 shotguns. That is what is available right now. The number kind of fluctuates up and down. And as you can see by these firearms, they are not very inspiring, they are not very sexy, and they are not very exciting, and there are reasons for this. So let's click on this revolver, this lightweight revolver, which, as you can tell by the color and the lightweight, they're specifically made for women after the Jyoti Singh. I can't tell you what happened to her because YouTube will not promote this video at all if I do. So Google her name. It was, you know, it was shocking what happened to her, absolutely shocking. So this is an example of a 6-round revolver that is available. Now I want you to look at the price. Over 1 lakh rupees. 109,000 rupees, this tiny revolver is. That is an incredible amount of money here in India. That is around 1,500 American dollars. What would you rather have? 2 Glocks with accessories, or just this one revolver? So these guns are incredibly expensive to buy here in India. And there's a reason for that. The government's made them unaffordable because they don't want to promote gun use. It's honestly better if you carry a pepper spray. I think pepper spray is best in most situations. You can disarm the person and escape. But if you want to buy a gun here, this one is 1,500 bucks American. Absolutely crazy, and none of these specs justify its price, all right? Like, if you're gonna sell guns for so expensive, government of India, at least make them premium. At least give Indian customers their money's worth. Don't just sell an expensive piece of, titanium alloy, okay? Make them a bit premium and give people their money's worth. Don't just rob people with the price of these guns. But the thing is, they will do the job. They're there for self-defense only, okay? So they have an effective range, those pistols and those revolvers, of like 10 meters. They're accurate to 10 meters, they're effective to 15 meters. So that's fine for self-defense, that's what their purpose is, and they don't want to promote gun use and gun buying, so that's why they're expensive, and that's why they're not technologically advanced like all the foreign firearms that are available are. So when people are looking for real guns, they go to second-hand guns imported before 1986, or they go for the black market. And in the black market, anything is possible here in Delhi. You can take an AK-47, you can take a Glock, whatever you want, it's there, but you will pay for it. These are smuggled weapons and they're totally illegal. If you're in possession of one of these, just possession, you can go to jail for 5 to 10 years and have a fine. And if you use a gun in a murder, you can get the death penalty here in India. So serious, serious consequences for using guns, and especially using illegal guns here. And I've read some of the prices, so an AK-47 is gonna set you back anywhere from 3 lakh to 8 lakh. It really just depends. It's a supply and demand thing. But more common here in India when it comes to illegal firearms is the kata. And this is a homemade Indian pistol. It shoots one bullet at a time, and they're known to backfire because they're just made in dodgy factories or at home. And these are the guns which are used in most of the crimes here in India because they're cheap. They have no serial numbers, no nothing. They can't be traced at all. And these katas go for between like 4,000 rupees up to 25,000 rupees. It just depends where you're buying it. It's more expensive in Delhi. It's less expensive if you go into UP and you go to like Meerut or Ghaziabad or somewhere like that, somewhere known for kind of gun violence and gangs. And that's usually where people are buying their illegal arms from. If it's just a normal person at home, they go into the local gangster and he's the guy who's got the connections to the arms dealers, and that's how they're getting illegal firearms in homes here in Delhi. And in New Zealand, I know there are a few people who have unlicensed firearms there. And what they do to protect them, or to hide them I should say, is they'll break them up. I'm talking about machine guns. They'll break up their fully automatic machine guns and hide them in different parts of the house or underneath the house as well. And when they want to use them, they'll go out to a farm or whatever and just blast away somewhere where they won't get caught. So same thing is happening in New Zealand. There's lots of illegal firearms there. Typically older firearms though, because the rules are so tightened. It's just really hard to import firearms illegally into New Zealand in general. But in India, it's a lot easier to import illegal arms, and they literally can get thrown over the border. They can get taken, they can get walked across the border in Assam because in some places there are no fences, or they can get thrown across the border in Punjab. A lot of the illegal activity tends to happen on that, Pakistan-Punjab border now. The drug smugglers, the gun runners, they've moved down from the Kashmir border because the Kashmir border is so well patrolled, and they're in the Punjab region now throwing the guns over the fence. And then from Amritsar, they take the guns up to Kashmir. At least that's what I've read. And any accessories to hide the firing of gun, like suppressors, they are totally banned in India. So no suppressors, no fun accessories like that. Now, how to own a firearm here in India? Well, it's damn hard. It takes months and up to a year just to get your firearms license. You have to be over 21 years of age, and you have to have a reason for wanting the firearm. But the reason can be as simple as self-defense. But you need to have a reason why for self-defense you need a firearm. So I would have a reason because of my YouTube channel and the videos I make exposing scammers. That would be fine. But they also promote pistols to women as well. So if you're a woman and you have some kind of late night work you have to do a lot of the time, you'll get the license for self-defense. And it's a really long process here in India. It's a longer process than in New Zealand. Here in India, you have to give them tax returns. You have to go to a government shooting school and take training. You have to have a mental health check, a physical health check. They're going to interview your neighbors. They're going to come and interview you. You have to go and get permission from the DCP as well. And there's a lot more to do. It's very, very difficult. More difficult than New Zealand. In New Zealand, you apply to the police station, they'll interview you, and there'll be 2 other people who you'll recommend to endorse you, okay? And then they just come to your house and they check you have a gun cabinet where you're going to keep your guns safe. But if you want to own a pistol in New Zealand, then it's a bit harder. You have to have joined a pistol club and practice there for 6 months, and then they will endorse you so you can get a license, a B category license, so you can buy a pistol. If you only have a license in New Zealand, you can only take a rifle or a shotgun, something like that at the beginning. You can't take a pistol. So what do you guys think about the gun laws here in India? They are very strict, especially when you compare it to somewhere like the US, but we all know the consequences of having too liberal gun laws. India's tried to find that balance in allowing people to protect themselves with a few guns which are capable of self-defense and not much more. There's a few sporting rifles for target practice, which is cool, but yeah, guns in India are a defense tool or a sporting tool only, basically. If you've analyzed those Indian guns, please let me know in the comments what you think of them. As always, Jai Hind and stay safe, dosto.